You're probably sick of seeing like 2016 favorites by now, aren't you? But I'm the last one to arrive at the party always. Hey guys, what's up? It's Lainey, and today I am doing my favorite books of 2016. I know it's almost the end of January and I'm only finally doing this, but I was actually struggling with whether I wanted to post a video like this or not. I don't know. I just wasn't really feeling it, and then I thought I'm just gonna do it because there's a lot of these books on my list that I actually haven't talked about on my channel because I know I haven't been keeping up with my wrap-ups towards the end of the year, and some of these I just like haven't even mentioned at all. None of these books are in any particular order. I don't think I could order any of these. These are all favorites for a certain reason. I don't even know how many are on my list. I just kind of picked the ones that I felt were my favorite that I read throughout the year, so let's just get started. The first one I'm mentioning is Crystal Storm by Morgan Rhodes. This is the 5th book in the Falling Kingdom series. I absolutely love this series. It's like every December I get to come home, in a sense, to this world and these characters. Even though I think this might be my least favorite in this series, I'm still overly enthusiastic about this series as a whole. I just love reading about these characters and having them go on this journey of trying to kind of save their kingdom. Obviously, I really can't go into too much detail about this book because it is the 5th book in a series, but I just really liked the characters in this one the most, and kind of how each of them were kind of pushed in a certain direction and how kind of it all fell apart at the end, and I'm just really excited to see how this series ends. It's going to be such a closure feeling when I finish this series. Everybody who watches me knows this is my favorite series, and to kind of see that all come to a close, the friends that I've made through this series has been incredible. The next book I wanted to mention was a book that I actually have on ebook form, and that is Forbidden by Tabitha Suzma. This book I read at the beginning of the year, and if you guys watched my wrap-up for it, I was like heartbroken. I love those kind of books that just like make me cry and make me feel something and just like totally shock me, and this book had all of those things in it. If you didn't know, this book has to do with a brother and sister kind of falling in love with each other, and it sounds weird, and it is weird. However, I just felt so emotionally attached and drained when I read this book, and that's why it's one of my favorites, is because I had such a reaction while I read it. If dark subject matter doesn't affect you too bad, I would suggest reading this book. The next book I wanted to mention is probably definitively my favorite book of the year, if I'm going to be honest, and that is going to be The Sun Is Also the Star by Nicola Yoon. This book also just like touched me in such a way. If you for some reason don't know what this book's about, it is a YA contemporary romance about two people that meet on the day that one of the characters, who is Jamaican, is being deported. You can say this is about like insta love and everything, but I feel like it's more about falling in love with the idea of falling in love, and that to me made this book so special, and all of the histories that were inserted into this book, and there were some that I could just like totally relate to. I love Nicola. She is such a gifted writer, and I can't wait to read more of her books. Next book I'm mentioning is going to be Behind the Hands That Kill by J.A. Rimurski. This is the 6th book in the Company of Killers series, and I actually buddy read this book with Riley and Kenya. They're my really close booktube friends. We love this series. It's about a group of assassins, and it's just like so much better than any of, I feel like, this genre. This is the best in this dark romance genre, and it's like a thriller suspense, but also there's romance in there, and there's just so much going on, and you get attached to the characters. And I've like read through the series twice now, and I can't wait for the next book in the series. This is definitely one of my favorite series of all time. Again, since this is the 6th book in the series, I don't really want to tell too much about it, but I would suggest starting from the beginning. Start with book 1. It's really good, and I know they're self-published, so I know that the ebooks are not very expensive. Next book I wanted to mention that is one of my favorites was actually another buddy read that I did with Riley and Kenya over the year, and that is going to be Transcendence by Shay Savage. This book. This is actually a prehistoric romance. Strangely, I think it was like my favorite romance I read of the year, just because it was so different, and I love different and weird when it comes to romance books. And this is just like so different than anything I've read before. It's basically this girl who, due to some circumstances, she gets transported back in time to the prehistoric era, where she meets like this prehistoric dude. It's the most interesting of relationships because there's barely any dialogue in the entire book because it's told entirely through his point of view, and he can't comprehend or understand language. So it's such an interesting romance where she's saying things, but since we're seeing things through his perspective, we don't know what she's saying. Because it was told without like any dialogue, it just made it that much more special to me. And I also read it with friends who really enjoyed it, and like that made it more special to me, because I love buddy reading when everybody's like on the same wavelength and it's just like everything is just like perfect. Definitely recommend this book. Next book I wanted to mention was Map of Fates by Maggie Hall. This is the second book in the Conspiracy of Us trilogy, and this one was like out of this world. I loved the sequel. This was probably it's one of my favorite second book in a series, and I know that's so hard for a second book in a series to be better than the first book, but I definitely feel like this is the one. Best way I can describe the Conspiracy of Us is like it's a blend between National Treasure and the Da Vinci Code. This book really goes deep into kind of like ancient prophecies, and while I feel like it's contemporary, there's like this like little wisp of like the magical prophecy that you're like wondering like, is this really true? Can this really be happening in our world? And I liked that kind of element in this type of world, and which is our world. It's just like such a fun book to read and sit down and just like get swept up in the whole adventure of it, and I love books that can just like sweep you up into the adventure. And the last book I wanted to mention as one of my favorites of 2016 was The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutowski. And this is probably my favorite conclusion to a trilogy I've ever read. Obviously, I am very swayed by my emotions when it comes to whether I like a book or not, and this one like had me crying for like 7 straight chapters. It was that heartbreaking. I just really love her writing. Marie's writing is so beautiful and so well put, and just it's just great. So those were my favorite books of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite books of the year were. Also wanted to mention, because I'm sure I'm gonna get comments about this, I have not read Crooked Kingdom yet. I'm pretty sure if I would have read Crooked Kingdom this past year, it would have been on the list. So that's the only reason why it's not on the list, is because I haven't read it. That's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!